to Discussing Dad Life, where we break down bullshit so you don't have to. I'm Void. This is No, and let's go.
He's recording.
Oh, okay.
And we're ready now. I'm gonna set the hour timer, I think.
Okay, I'm
not sure how long this one's gonna take.
Okay.
But welcome to Main Event Mondays. Shout out to
Ding,
your
ding, ding,
son
ding.
for giving us names for the days that we're doing these things on.
Yeah. All right. So I'm still contemplating or like thinking about what we're about to talk about. Like, this is insane to me.
Yeah, right. So, let's fill in the background.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So Friday night, I gave you a call and asked you if you'd heard about New Mexico. And you had not. So I kind of gave you a little bit of a fill-in of what I had found out so far.
Yeah, and then from there we've spiraled. We've gone downhill. The rabbit hole's too deep.
It is. So basically, just in case, I just put out a post earlier this morning as we're recording this, asking, what do you guys think about the New Mexico governor?
Infringement?
Infringement on your rights of carrying and bearing arms. So what she did was she basically, in response to the death of a child, an 11-year-old, issued a public health emergency in Albuquerque and surrounding areas.
That doesn't even make sense.
Banning guns
for 30 days.
Concealed and So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're using the Daily Wire. This was the best article I found that kind of talked everything and then also gave the snippets of what she talked about. But so Michelle Lujan Grissom banned people from being able to carry guns in Albuquerque and the surrounding county for at least the next 30 days as a kid was killed during a road rage incident, right? So that's sad that child died.
Yeah. What happened in the... I'm sure they'll talk about it. Go ahead.
I'm sure. So Grissom signed the executive order on Thursday declaring that gun violence was a public health emergency in the Democrat-controlled state. On Friday, Grissom unilaterally suspended open and concealed carry laws in Albuquerque and the surrounding area. She said that she could further lengthen or renew the order, which was immediately slammed as many as being unconstitutional. I'm one of those people.
Yeah, dude, it is. You can't take away people's gun rights.
No, that violates the Second Amendment of the federal Constitution, and it also violates, Article 6 of the New Mexico Constitution.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
she is violating rights. Oh, he's pulling it up. Yeah, Section 6, right to bear arms under New Mexico. Go ahead, go back to the article, bud. We're going to read through that first, and then you dive into the constitutions.
Screenshot that shit. All right, where were we? Grisham.
Yeah, which admitted that her order might be unconstitutional. She conceded that she might not win legal challenges filed against the order.
She might not win.
Well, she won't win.
She better not win.
If she wins, we got real serious problems in the country.
You know why they're doing all this, right? Because all the people that are coming across the border are getting ready to attack.
Wow, that's a conspiracy theory if I've ever heard one. Holy crap, man.
They're getting ready, man. They're taking away your guns.
So Grissom says, now that I am sure as I go through the rest of this, there will be a lot of questions about whether or not we think we have the legal right to do that. I am sure that before you write this, there will be legal challenges, she said, and I can't tell you that we will win if given all the different challenges to gun violence laws and restrictions on individual firearm access and control. So
she better not win.
I really dislike the phrasing of gun violence because
it's too generalized or too vague. I mean,
well, violence is violence. It doesn't matter if it's a gun or a knife or anything like that. Violence is violence. So, but that's what Democrats do. They like to carve out and to specifically highlight one thing to get it to be an action word or a call for action word. Whatever. So, I can't tell you if she was later challenged directly over whether her decision to unilaterally override laws was unconstitutional. Yeah, scroll down below that, bud.
Right there.
Grissom responded that the decision to declare an emergency gives her additional powers. Unfortunately, it does give her additional powers, but those powers do not mean that you can violate the Constitution of the state or the federal government. So this is what authoritarianism does. They like to take power and then they like to unilaterally decide what can and can't be done. Unfortunately, she's taken a step too far.
I want to know what the people in New Mexico think.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm gonna go watch some videos when this is over.
So no constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms. So this in and of itself is the best thing that she could have said, right? Because she's basically saying that the state has more power than your individual freedom.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Her oath is to be absolute to the Constitution. You cannot violate the Constitution. Are there restrictions on free speech? Not really. You can say and do whatever you want, but you are not free of the ramifications of that speech, right? That's the difference. And that they don't want, they're, I like to liken Democrats to being intelligent, but not smart.
I'll give you that.
So they're intelligent. They think they know what they're talking about, but when they try to apply their knowledge to real world situations, they do not understand how real world works.
They pull a Kamala Harris?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they like to tout their education. They think that anyone that's not educated and believes different things has to be dumb and not educated. I'm sorry. I'm a prime example. I am educated.
Yeah, you are. You're really smart.
And I don't agree with your takes because your takes are very reductionist. They're very one-sided. They are not multidimensional. And this world is multidimensional. You do not have restrictions on your speech. You can say whatever you want, but you are not going to. You're going to be held accountable for what you say, right?
Yeah.
So that was the whole thing. Like, you remember that parade in Michigan that was held by the Nazis?
No, when was this?
This was like back in the 80s, 90s.
No.
Right, Nazis were actually openly doing parades in like Michigan or something.
I know it just happened in Florida. They did something. But
did they?
Yeah.
So the thing is that is protected speech.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and parade for that. But if you do that and you get made fun of, you get told, and your ideas are challenged because, let's face it, Nazi ideas are not the smartest ideas to have. You can go ahead and do it, but you're also going to have to deal with the ramifications of other people being like, well, you're an idiot.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
So you can scream fire in a theater.
Yeah.
Now, if you scream fire in a theater and that leads into civil unrest and people are stampeding out of it, you're going to be held liable for incitement to riot, right?
Yeah.
So you can say it, but you have consequences from saying it. So
what's Newton's law for every
action, there's an equal and
opposite reaction? Yeah.
So like I'm saying, the Democrats are very one-dimensional. They don't understand. They think they are smart, but they're really not.
Which is weird because aren't they the fucking the party of like what's the word I'm thinking of?
Inclusion?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, they're the party of inclusion as long as you agree with them.
Oh God.
If you differ on them, for being so tolerant, they are very intolerant.
Dude, they're. I hope this doesn't fly. Like I'm still in awe. I'm awestruck right now.
I think it's very telling that she went ahead and did this Thursday night because basically it's giving her 3 days without the courts being able to intercede.
Yeah, until Monday.
So now it's upon the cops, the law enforcement in the area to basically either violate what the governor is telling them to do. State police obviously report right up to the governor, so that one's going to be a little bit hard pressed. But the sheriff agencies do not. The sheriff is the law of the county,
land,
right?
Yeah.
So, in all reality, if there's a strong sheriff in one of these areas, I would actually. I'm wondering if you could actually charge her for dereliction of duty and actually treason.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool.
I mean, because
well, I did see something after you told me the other day. I did see a video of I don't know if it was a sheriff, some law enforcement person that obviously carried some weight. He flat out told everybody he is not going to enforce this whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So good for him. Sorry, I forget your name, but I think more people need to speak up about this.
Yeah, I mean, cops get a bad rep, and yes, there are bad cops out there, but there are also good cops out there that stand on principle and are trying to actually help their community. Mm-hmm. The reason why cops have such a bad rap now is because a lot of them just give in to do the authoritarian, like, oh, we need to hit our quotas. They don't actually care about enforcing the laws of the land and actually providing protection.
No,
and
man, they're like
service.
everybody else. They just want to collect their paycheck and go home.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate.
It is.
Excuse me. Grisham then spoke about the 11-year-old who was killed this week and others who have been killed in the shootings. But wait a minute, you're talking about crimes. The reporter pushed back. There are already laws against the crime, so how are their rights inaudible, right? So they missed it. But again, if I'm unsafe, who's standing up for that right? Grisham responded. If this climate is so out of control, somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do. So basically, I actually had this really good conversation with a lady a few days ago, actually talking about guns and gun rights. Guns are a great equalizer, right? Yeah. So if you're being a victim of a crime, let's say a violent crime, and you have a gun, you've leveled the playing field, right?
Yeah,
you can protect yourself. So what she's actually doing, and this is true at any Democrat state or in city that has banned guns. I mean, look at Chicago.
Oh God,
Chi-town.
Exactly.
I mean that.
I have a friend who just got back from there, and it's not pretty.
When I was in the military, and we had a dude from Chicago. It was Chirac. I mean, that's what we refer to him. He came from Chirac. I mean, because it is basically open warfare there. But guess what? They have a gun on all a ban on all guns in that city. But it's still one of, if not the number one, within the top two every year after year after year. Murder capital, gun crimes, yada yada yada.
And that's so sad, man. That's such loss of life. You know what I mean?
BLM never supports it, never goes into these neighborhoods and tries helping out.
No shit.
Which is one reason why I never supported the BLM movement, because they didn't care about actually solving any of this stuff. They were just out there for money.
Yep.
But you say that, and then everyone thinks, "Oh, you're a racist." No, it's not.
That's a fact. Candace Owens talks about it all the time.
Candace Owens did a great breakdown. It is the greatest lie ever sold.
Yep.
You know, so you guys should check that one out. She does a great job of breaking the BLM down.
Yeah.
I mean, they were buying mansions and stuff, and they were paying millions of dollars to their brother for security or something like that.
Something like that. But I saw a video too. The one lady said that she was I think she said she was threatened by Candace Owens or something, and like she showed up at the front door with just a camera. Mm-hmm. And you know what I'm talking about, that whole situation.
Yep.
And then she went live on TikTok or something and started like crying. She's like, "What are you scared of? A camera? What are you scared of?" I was like, "You go, girl."
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting that she's basically saying I'm going to ban guns, which is absolutely not going to solve the problem. The problem is mental health. The problem is the economy. There's so many more problems than the gun. The gun is not the problem. The gun is just the mechanism for people to let out their frustration. But you ban guns like Europe did, or not Europe, Britain.
Yeah.
What happened?
Crime went up.
Violence with gun usage went down.
Yeah.
But violence with knives went up.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna inflict bodily harm on somebody and you have it dead set and you know what I mean, you're going to do that.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter what you use to hurt that other person or individual. They're gonna a rock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So are you gonna ban rocks next?
Yeah. So it's not about actually trying to protect your citizens. I'm going to correct you. What you're doing is basically saying, I want to make it easy so you can be a easier victim for the criminals.
That's exactly what it is.
So
I hope you guys are defending yourselves in New Mexico. I got family there.
Yeah. So what she says she was asked by a different reporter, do you really think that criminals are going to hear this message and not carry a gun in Albuquerque in the streets for 30? And she said, no. That's her answer. No. So good job. You're openly admitting you have no constitutional right to do this. You're openly admitting that what you're trying to accomplish isn't going to work. So what are you this is the problem with Democrats.
Facts.
I'm sorry. I kind of wish I lived in New Mexico and was the sheriff, because I would be arresting her for treason.
That ain't going to happen.
No.
It'd be cool though.
I'd freaking do it, and I would pursue it. And every time that she came to the county, I'd pull her over. I'm sorry, you're treasonous.
You'd be reelected as sheriff for life if you did.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, she's horrible.
Oh, they have a little video.
Yeah, so we're not gonna play.
Yeah,
it,
I don't think we can.
But so let's go ahead and move into the Constitution, right?
All right, yeah. Let's see what she's messing up.
Go ahead and pull up the U.S. Constitution, bud.
There we go.
So on the top of the screen, it's the Constitutions. This is from the Congress.gov. So this basically is walking through the United States Constitution, right?
Yep.
So you have the preamble, which is the people of the United
the
States, in order to
people.
be a form of more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America, right? So that's the preamble. That's kind of just setting forth what reason there is.
Yeah.
Article 1, this is the legislative powers. This is how Congress is supposed to function, and this is setting all the rules for Congress, right?
Okay, stipulations.
Yeah. So we're not going to read through this entire
No.
document right now. It's large, but if you guys are curious on how our government's actually supposed to function, go ahead and give these.
Do your research.
It's the founding fathers, when they wrote this, while not perfect, because we are all humans and we are not perfect creatures, and they were living in an imperfect time. We're still living in an imperfect time. Basically built a wonderful constitution for us to continue moving forward and expanding liberty and making sure that people have the ability to have a prosperous life.
Man,
So I would encourage you guys to give it a read.
I haven't read this in such a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. So go ahead and let's go to Article 2 real quick. Scroll down. Keep going. Scroll down. This is Section 1's long, stupidly long. Article 2 right here.
there.
So this is the executive powers. This is laying forth what the President of the United States actually can do. It's also...
Here you go, Joe Biden.
Yeah. So this one's a really good article. If you read this one, you'll understand why the president actually doesn't have as much power as you think he does. Go ahead, scroll down to Article 3.
Parts of those checks and balances that the founding fathers implemented, yeah.
So Article 3, this is the judicial power. This is setting forth the Supreme Court of the United States. And then it's all... So this is a wonderful article. It's not... It does provide checks and balances against some of the both the legislative and the president. So it's pretty good. Go ahead, down.
Also, make sure you guys are understanding what you're reading, because some people can read this and then interpret it one way and be completely skewed on it.
Oh, yeah. Article 4, this is basically setting it up where each state has to provide equal protections and stuff as their adjacent states.
Okay.
So, which is, speaking of gun laws, we were talking about this earlier. Section 4, actually, right? So, privileges and immunities of citizens in several states, right? So, the privileges and immunities. One of the privileges and immunities that that each citizen have is actually the right to bear arms. So, if I live in Idaho and I own a firearm and I go down to California and California arrests me because they banned firearms, technically they're breaking the fourth article of the Constitution. So go ahead, scroll down a little bit more to Article 5. Article 5 is interesting. Basically, it's
the smallest one.
It is the shortest one, but it's basically talking about how the ratification process of amendments happen. Article 6 is the debts and contract and engagements of the Constitution, yada, yada, yada. So that...
Yada, yada, yada.
Go down. Section 7 is the ratification of the Convention of the United States shall be sufficient to establishment of the Constitution, basically saying how the Constitution is actually going to come about. I think Article 6 also does the Convention of States, if I remember right. I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
But then after Article 7, you get into what's known as the Bill of Rights, which is the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, right? So the First Amendment is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof and abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances, right?
Yeah.
But the governor of New Mexico basically said that one's... No, she doesn't have to follow that one if she doesn't want to, because the Constitution's not absolute. She's not an... Her oath does not mean that she actually has to follow the Constitution.
I hate her.
You know. The Second Amendment, this is the one that actually applies in this situation, is the Second Amendment reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Let's say that again. Shall not be infringed.
So the simple fact is, the Second Amendment puts forth that everyone has a right to keep and bear arms. any state that infringes upon that right is in violation of the United States Constitution. The federal government is lacking in its responsibility of enforcing the states to actually abide by this. If the states don't like it, they need to convene the 2/3 in order and make a amendment or a ratification of an amendment, right? So it hasn't been done yet. So every state, California, New York, New Jersey, you guys are violating the United States Constitution, plain and simple.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry right there. You know what I mean? It's not, it's shall not be infringed except for when yada, yada, yada happens. No, it says right there.
Yep. Third Amendment is no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So a lot of people think that it's like when they're saying no soldier, what they're referring to is the soldier is capitalized for a reason. It's actually talking about the no government enforcement, or no party of the government can force an owner of a house to let someone stay there. This was actually used during the COVID restrictions when they were banning people from collecting rent and evicting people. The Third Amendment was the violation that they were citing on that one, which is true. That being capitalized actually changes the entire meaning of the word soldier.
Yeah. And then you start getting into the straw man and all that.
Yeah. So, if I remember right, there are a total of, was it 23? 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th. 27 amendments, right? Yeah, I forgot about a few of those. My bad, guys.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute since I've read all these.
Yeah, I haven't read them in at least 20 years.
Yeah. So, the United States Constitution sets forth a lot of the things that she's violating.
It's like our guidelines for our,
and the Bill of Rights, guys, is just the amendments of the Constitution, right? So the Constitution laid forth how it's going to function. The amendments were things that were saying, hey, these were not in the Constitution, but they're so important that we need to enshrine them in law. And that's what's known as the Bill of Rights. The Constitution is more than just the Bill of Rights. The Constitution actually lays out how the government's supposed to function. Nowhere in there will you find that the government has to function with an FBI or a CIA or an IRS.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, you go through this, you'll actually never find anything about levying taxes derived
That's a
from
good
certain
argument.
things, right? So there is a legal argument to be made that income taxes is
voluntary,
is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
So just food for thought. Some days I kind of wish I would have got my JD and been a lawyer. But
you would have been a good one. You would have been a good lawyer.
I like arguing, so.
You do. I love it.
So go ahead and go over to the New Mexico Constitution, please, which is the third tab.
Click it now. All right, here we go.
Right there, Section 6, right to bear arms. So this is the New Mexico Constitution, right? All states, when they're
have their own.
Yeah, when you're applying for a statehood, you have to have a constitution that's been ratified for the blah, 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 right? So
yeah.
You can be a territory, but in order to be a state, you need to supply a constitution on how your government's going to function. And for the most part, most states follow a lot of what just the U.S. Constitution is. They might reword it in some ways or shapes or form. But New Mexico, Section 6, right to bear arms. No law shall abridge the right of a citizen to keep and bear arms for security and defense, for lawful hunting and recreational use, and for other lawful purposes. But nothing herein shall be held to permit the carrying of concealed weapons. No municipality or county shall regulate in any way an incident of the right to keep and bear arms.
Okay, so dumb that down for...
So more or less what this is saying is it's saying the exact same thing as the U.S. Constitution, right? That there is no power in the government in New Mexico that can tell you have that they can do anything to take away your arms.
Exactly.
So
sorry, I know it's a dumb question, but it's the same thing as our normal Constitution, but they just reworded it differently.
Yeah, basically.
And so I just wanted to point that out to people watching.
So it was amended in right here. They note it was amended in November 2nd, 1971, and November 2nd of 1986. But everything in there is basically saying that there is no person in New Mexico that can regulate
So
no
what?
municipality or county shall regulate. And the governor, while she doesn't report to municipality or county, she reports to the state. The state constitution is telling her that no law shall abridge the right of a citizen.
Somebody might want to tell her. You know what I mean?
You would think, right?
Yeah.
But this is the problem with Democrats is they don't care what the constitutions say.
Rules
state,
for thee, not for me.
the state constitution or the federal constitution, they don't care what they have to say. They think
No,
they
they
know
don't.
better. And because they think they know better, they think that they have the ability to enforce their viewpoints on others.
Yep.
This is the problem. This is the problem with authoritarianism is you have people who don't understand that other people don't agree with them. And it is okay to not be agreed with. People don't agree with me. That is completely fine. But
Yeah.
I'm entitled to my opinion. You're entitled to yours. But as long as we leave each other alone and I don't force my viewpoints on you and you don't force your viewpoints on me, we're going to get along
Right.
swimmingly. I like
Famously.
that. Famously. we need some tea and crumpets.
I just need a monocle. I'm flabbergasted.
So you were asking questions earlier before we started this, and I said, well, let's just wait and do this.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Let's kind of go
Let's
over some
dive
of these
into
things. You know,
Like, I really wish, like you said, the sheriff or the law enforcement there, they do something about this, but I don't think they will.
no, right. So the thought process is right. The governor is using a public health emergency in order to strip people's rights away.
She's manipulating it.
So law enforcement, state troopers obviously report straight up to the governor.
Yeah.
So that one's going to be hard pressed for any of these state troopers to do anything to go against her
Citizen's
directives.
arrest? Can't
Right?
you do a citizen's arrest?
Well, you could do citizen's arrest, but then you'd have to actually have. That gets tricky, right? Because each state has like
Different laws or-
different ways you can perform a citizen's arrest.
Okay.
Right? So the Georgia incident where they were trying to do a citizen's arrest and the guy struggled, took his shotgun, and then the shotgun went off because he was fighting for the gun.
Yeah.
Right? People put themselves in very precarious situations, and then you get an unsympathetic jury who doesn't understand the law as well as like lawyers and stuff like that will find you guilty. So like those men obviously went after who they thought was a robbery suspect. They kind of violated the law was written in a way where you could take it one of two ways.
They took it the other way.
And the jury took it the one way where it would interpret him as being guilty, and the other way would have interpreted him as being not guilty, right?
Yeah.
The bad part is they also found the guy who filmed it guilty of, I think it was manslaughter or something like that.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, technically, there should have been no reason he would get. But that also ties into like Enrique Tarrio just got 22 years for his involvement in January 6th that he wasn't even involved in. He was not even in Washington.
Yep, he wasn't even there.
But because his speech questioned whether or not Biden was actually the president, he refused to say Trump was instructing me to do this because more or less all they're trying to do is create fear tactics. They're using the government in order to create fear tactics so they can stop the Trump because they're so afraid of him.
I so hope he would.
But like the left went and forced the president in a bunker, burned down a church, burned down a guard shack, right? Nothing. No, not even a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, literally nothing.
A man who wasn't even in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Oh, you talk with people who were there 22 years.
See, that's such a double standard. And, And why aren't people saying more about this? Why aren't they doing more about this?
Because
they're scared. I know, like I know the answers to my questions. It's just like I tell you, I'm.
Well, think of it like this, man. Right? So let's view this as right versus left, right?
Okay.
Because that's the easiest way to break it down. It's completely more nuanced than that, but that's the easiest way to break it down, right? So you have the left who is willing to exercise raw political power, and then you have the right that is unwilling to do
stand
anything.
up for themselves. Yeah.
So that's where the double standard comes in. Is you have one party who believes that they are superior than other people, and it's all built upon a house of lies.
Yeah.
Democrats are the party of slavery. Democrats are the party of corporations. Democrats are the party of cheap wages.
Yeah.
Democrats are the party of war. I mean, you name it. They're all everything that the Democrats do is counter to what the Democratic voting base actually wants.
Yeah.
But they are so good at marketing and changing and renaming what they want. They legit have people so confused that they stay in power.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. It's just sad, man.
And the right is so poor at marketing, but they're also so poor of utilizing, right? They think they're above the fray. And because they think they're above the fray, they don't talk about any of these issues. And because they don't talk about any of these issues, you allow them to continue festering.
Yeah.
So the right's at fault, the left's at fault, and Americans in general are at fault because no one pays attention to any of this stuff.
Burn this bitch down and start all over.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
So I have a call of action to the fine men and women of law enforcement around Albuquerque and the surrounding area.
Yeah.
Go against the governor's unconstitutional decree and do not enforce this. I would also encourage you to talk with your prosecutors in the state to see if you can actually charge her for sedition or treason.
Yeah. And let us know what happens, man. Like, get on here and leave a message or something.
Yep. Yeah, and if you are living in that state, let us know what you think of your wonderful governor. I know she was up for re-election 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and you guys re-elected her. I thought you guys were going to wake up and finally get rid of her, oust her, because she is destroying your state.
Incredibly fast.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Thank you for watching. Please give us a like, share, and subscribe. Till then, peace.